So we all set?
Kids are all
Just want to point out the bipartisan nature of this whole thing we're doing here. I am actually really proud to be here, and I want to thank all of you for being here with me. This is a really big deal. This is House Bill 1419. It's known as Clean Slate legislation, and it's going to help all of those who have committed low-level offenses, have paid their penalty to get back on the path to a blemish-free life. And I really want to point out, Pennsylvania is the very first state in the union to do this. So thank you very much. That's great. It's a big deal. Through this legislation, we will be making the process of sealing records much fairer and much easier for those with low-level offenses. And that's going to help reduce the stigma faced by formerly incarcerated people when they're getting their life back together, trying to get their life back together in making job searches, housing searches, or even in applying to colleges. This clean slate legislation allows for records to be sealed if a person has been free from conviction for 10 years for an offense that resulted in a year or more in prison and who has paid all court-ordered financial debts. In addition, it allows sealing of records for second or third degree misdemeanor offenses that included a less than 2-year prison term, and if a person has been free from convictions, again, for 10 years. It also seals criminal history records relating to charges that did not result in convictions. While doing this for low risk and low-level offenses, the legislation does not allow for record sealing in more serious crimes such as firearms charges, sexual offenses, murder, kidnapping, child endangerment, and endangering the welfare of children, among other serious offenses. But this legislation will help low-level offenders who have paid their debt or those who were accused but not convicted of a crime, and it's going to reduce the stigma that each of these individuals face. That stigma hurts all of us because it can prevent people from getting housing, as I said, a job, or even in applying to college. And as a former employer, I've been doing politics now for 3.5 years. As a former employer, I had my own clean slate legislation, a second chance. And I found that I got really, really good employees. This is a very practically important, practically smart thing that we're doing here in Pennsylvania, and there's a reason why. There's broad bipartisan support for this. Record sealing for the included offenses is going to help, again, everybody who is involved get their lives back on track, and for people who have already paid their debt to society. But it also is going to demonstrate that there is another path for these folks than returning to what they did in the first place to get them into prison. This bill is the latest step in my administration's broader efforts to make our Commonwealth and our society safer by helping those who have offended put their lives back in order. Last year, we all banned the box by removing criminal conviction questions for job applications covered by the Office of Administration. I could do that by executive order, and I did. This ensured that all candidates for employment are being evaluated on their merit and on their willingness and ability to contribute to the Commonwealth, not on what they might have done 10 years ago. This common sense step is helping those re-entering the community to make real contributions to our society, to their families, and to our economy. Now, while the clean slate, this gives me a chance to sell here, while the clean slate and ban the box are great steps toward improving our lives and removing the stigma of low-level convictions, we also know that we need to do more to reform our criminal justice system. So in the past, I have called for a slate of reforms that will help our system work better and work smarter while saving crucial taxpayer dollars. For example, we should finally pass and implement the Justice Reinvestment Initiative, or JRI-2, to address the high cost of incarceration in our state, to strengthen support for county probation programs, and to fix inadequate sentencing guidelines. JRI-2 will help save taxpayer money. Again, this has bipartisan support by helping to make short prison sentences more predictable in length so that when people have served their times without incidents, they're able to re-enter society. In addition, JRI-2 will invest more resources in our county probation system to help them do the job that they're to do. JRI-2 will also help improve sentencing guidelines to further reduce recidivism. It will update sentencing guidelines to make sure that we are doing all we can to emphasize risk reduction to society. And it's going to help make sure that people are only serving time in accordance with their violation, rather than ordering longer sentences for smaller violations. In addition, JRI 2, we also need to make, in addition to that, we also need to make necessary reforms to our pretrial system to make sure that those accused of a crime have access to competent legal counsel and a reasonable bail system. We're the only state. Pennsylvania is the only state in the nation that fails to provide state funding for indigent defenders, to public defenders. We're the only state. We need to change that. We need to take a strong role in ensuring that we have a fair defense system for everybody. Everybody deserves fair defense, regardless of his or her ability to pay. We also need to take steps to reform our bail system. We right now have a debtor's prison in Pennsylvania, but no one should ever be held in prison only, as we do now, only because they can't afford to post bail. The only factor that should be considered when holding someone in prison is their risk to society. Studies show that more pretrial time in jail leads to worse outcomes. It's not good for any of us to allow this system to continue. We should work to standardize bail amounts across counties for the same crimes, and we need to make sure that economic circumstances, simply economic circumstances, don't lead to more jail time. We also need to work to reform our post-trial criminal justice system to ensure that we're working towards the rehabilitation of individuals and preparing them to re-enter society, rather than creating further risks for recidivism. We should work to reform our probation, our parole, revocation, and resentencing system to make sure that we are not spending valuable resources on supervising individuals who really don't pose a risk to society. And we should also expand our current Post-Conviction Relief Act to further explain an individual's right to appeal so that everybody knows what their rights are. So let me get back to Clean Slate. This legislation is an incredibly important piece of my administration's commitment to helping formerly incarcerated or arrested individuals get their lives back on track and stay away from past actions. I am proud to be here today to sign this along with the sponsors of the program. No, I want to get this in the right order here too. Am I going to embarrass or insult anybody? Senator Williams?
That's the right place to start.
He's not biased at all.
Representative Delozier, Representative Harris, and we're going to hear from you in just a minute. But I want to thank all three of you, and actually Scott Wagner was also, while he was in the Senate, was a prime sponsor. So I want to thank all four of you for making sure that this legislation's gotten to my desk. I'm going to sign it here, and I'm proud to do that. And I'm really proud that Pennsylvania is first in the nation to do this. So before I sign, I'd like to turn this over to the next speaker, Representative Sheryl Delozier, who has been one of the phenomenal supporters of this and one of the leaders in the effort to make Pennsylvania a real example.
Thank you,
thanks.
Governor. Thank you, Governor. I appreciate the history that he gave as well. And I just wanted to give a little history as well and talk about the fact that I think we'll all remember 2 years ago in the back East Wing Rotunda, Senator Williams, former Senator Wagner, as the governor mentioned, Representative Harris, and I started the process to educate the public and the legislature on how we could give people who have made mistakes, served their time, done what is necessary, on low-level misdemeanors a second chance. And pure and simple, that's what this bill is about, and I think it's a good idea to move forward as we have done it. You know, when you sit there and you take a look at the first day that we started looking at this, and it was 2 Republicans from central Pennsylvania, 2 Democrats from Philadelphia, what could we possibly have in common, you know? I mean, but we made it work, right? We found out that, you know, a lot of times if you take a look at our voting records, we're from different districts. We have different philosophies on how things should be done, but we have this common idea as to the fact that people deserve a second chance. And that's what this bill is about, and that's why we work so hard, all of us, in our respective chambers and with so many different groups. And that's why I wrote everything down so I wouldn't forget somebody, because there is a lot of folks. But our common goals, we were lucky to have many groups like the DA's Association. We have Fran Chardo here from the Dauphin County DA representing them. All of our large business chambers from Philly, Harrisburg, and Pittsburgh. as well as our statewide chamber of businesses. And these are our job creators that were supportive of this. We have the Justice Action Network. We have the Americans for Prosperity, the Center for American Progress, the AFL-CIO, the ACLU, Community Leagues, Legal Services, and many, many more that work together in a very bipartisan way to get this bill accomplished. The staff in the Judiciary Committee, I sit on the Judiciary Committee, and we worked this bill through. Tom and Mike worked, there were hundreds of hours of phone calls, of emails, of meetings, everything to get this done and get it to coordinate with Act 5 that we passed in 2016, which was also a very important piece of legislation dealing with justice changes. The other person that worked tirelessly with us was the chairman, Representative Marsico. He couldn't be here today, but I just wanted to do a thank you for him, because without his willingness to shepherd this as a committee member, the chairman, as you well know, have a lot of authority, and his ability to really promote it, and he was a great supporter of it at every turn, and I just wanted to thank you. But one of the things that I wanted to point out, and the governor led up to this, was, you know, after graduation and you're really excited about your future, and you go out into the community and you try to apply for jobs, and you think this job is something you are so well qualified for, you have the degree, you have all of these things that make it something that you can do well. And then it comes back, and the person comes back from HR and says, I'm sorry, you failed our background check. I'm sorry, we cannot offer you this perfect job because of a mistake that you made when you were 19 years old. And time again, this is completely avoidable. We need to, you know, people make mistakes. I don't think anyone in this room can honestly say that they've never made a mistake. And so I really say to a lot of folks, and I've heard people on both sides of this issues that are a hard no, don't give anybody a second chance, they made a mistake, that should be held accountable. Well, you know what, when you have a mistake of maybe open container, you have an underage drinking, you have something that you disrupt a public meeting, which I thought was interesting, was a misdemeanor. So none of you interrupt any meetings whatsoever. But that's something that if you're charged with, it comes back to haunt you, and this should not keep people from being good community members, taxpayers, and job holders in our community. So with that, the ability for us to make sure that people serve their time, they do what they need to do, 10 years later, they've been clean. They haven't had police interaction. They've turned their life around. People in our country and in our communities, human people can make a change. They make a change for themselves. They make a change a lot of times when they have a family. They have children depending on them. That's what's important to them. They want a good life. This will allow 10 years doing what you should be doing. We're going to give you a second chance. And I think that's the right way to go. I think it's a bipartisan way to go. I think so many of these people that are standing here agree with us. We have people from all walks of life, all sides of the political spectrum, all in support of this. I think that makes a good public policy. So as we go through this, I just want to say, Governor, thank you for your willingness to sign this. Thank you, Senator Williams and Representative Harris, for teaming up so we can make this a reality. And I look forward to the signing today. So thank you very much. I'm very sorry. I was supposed to hand it off to my compatriot, Representative Harris.
All right. Good afternoon. Well, let's try that again. I'm a former school teacher, and I grew up in a black church, so we do this call and response thing. Let's try this again. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right, there we go. I'm State Representative Jordan Harris. I represent the 186th Legislative District, and I'm the chairman of the Pennsylvania Legislative Black Caucus. It is a great day here in Pennsylvania. Far too often, our Commonwealth, sadly, we tend to be last at the table on some things, to put it mildly. But today, with the signing of this legislation, Pennsylvania becomes a first. We become a first in the nation to pass this type of legislation that automatically seals criminal records and removes the barrier of going to court for many of our sons and daughters who have found themselves on the wrong side of the law but have transformed and changed their lives. You know, we are a country that believes in justice. We believe in a constitution, and we believe in the swift administration of justice. And we do that when folks commit crimes. We take them through the process, and for some there's a removal from the community, for some there's probation, but we do that. But we have to be just as swift with our justice with regards to how we reintegrate people back into our society. We must understand that the way the system is set up now, men and women who have changed their lives still are locked out. Many of them are locked out of employment, they're locked out of education, they're locked out of housing. And being locked out has created many of them to become second-class citizens. And that continual situation of being locked out, not only is it unjust, it is in effect giving them a life sentence, even though they have paid their debt to society. And I submit to you today that that is actually cruel and unusual punishment. And that is why we must continue to work hard at fixing how we deal with records. Surely we need to keep those records, but those records should not be a scarlet letter upon someone that stains them for the rest of their life. When a person has shown you that they've changed, we should give them the opportunity to do so. And the only way to really reintegrate folks into our society is by cleaning up, sealing their records, and giving them a clean slate. So I'm honored to be here today. It was 2 years ago in February, Governor, that we were in this very room doing Act number 5 of 2016, which was the start of us on this journey of criminal justice reform with regards to records. So I echo my colleague, Representative Delozier, with our thanks to Chairman Marsico and his staff, Mike Kane and Tom Dimnick, to my colleagues in my chamber, Representative Pacharka and Sarah Speed, and to Senator Greenleaf over in the Senate, who has been a champion of reform efforts in this General Assembly, and of course to our governor for his foresight in making criminal justice reform a priority for his administration. This is what being a Pennsylvanian is about. People coming together from all sides of the Commonwealth, understanding that when we have a common goal, we can put our differences aside and we can work together towards that common goal. So I'm honored to be here with Representative Delozier and with the guy from the 8th Senatorial. My brother, those that don't know me, I was an intern in Senator Williams' office when I was in high school. So for us personally, it's an awesome moment to stand with someone that I interned with, to now work with him as a colleague, but not just a colleague, but a person that we worked together to get a bill to the governor's desk that in just a few minutes will be the law of this Commonwealth. You know, that's Pennsylvania, and it makes me proud today with everything that's going on around us. This day makes me proud to be a Pennsylvanian. And with that, I want to turn it over to someone who legislation like this will actually affect and change their lives. So we'll turn it over to Ronald Lewis.
Clean slate. Clean slate, man. Personally, for me, this is like drinking a glass of water on a hot day. It's been a long 14 years. I'm not even the same person. I don't even think the same. I'm a businessman, a father, a friend. Yo, clean slate, man. This is beautiful. This is so beautiful. It's overwhelming. So many different emotions. I'm happy. My family's happy. My mother's happy. A little sad 'cause my dad's not here to see it. My kids are extremely proud of me. But this helps so many people in so many different ways. Like, where I come from, we come from a community where if you make a mistake, it's a life sentence, regardless how minute it is. We don't think nobody help us. We don't think nobody care. I can take this back to a community where they don't have no hope. This breeds hope in the people. This is different. This feeling is one of the best feelings in the world. Only thing that might top this feeling is the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. Clean slate. Clean slate.
Yeah. That's a little emotional to follow. So as mentioned before, this is a hallelujah moment. So for those who are not Baptists, for the day you're a Baptist, and so we can all say together, hallelujah. No, that wasn't for a laugh. That was, I want you to actually say hallelujah. Yeah. Hallelujah. Okay, some of you non-Baptists, seriously, really, let's try a little rhythm here. Okay? I'm going to say it one more time. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Whatever. We're not. Side. Did I talk while you were talking? Thank you, for disrespectful. So, for all the things that are said about the legislation, it is an elevated feeling for me for a variety of reasons. My dad has passed on. He was a criminal attorney. And up close, I saw, frankly, the many young people whose lives were crushed, even though he would save them in court, the consequence of either a conviction or even an arrest follow them for the rest of their lives. And for many of us in this room, we think it tends to be an issue of urban communities. And the fact is that when I was first introduced this in a very serious way, many of the people who are behind us today are organizers of that activity. And many of them are registered Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, a variety of backgrounds. They came to my office, and I guess they came to Senator Wagner's office and asked us to be partners in a bill that would move and reform this process for many Pennsylvanians, regardless of where you are from. And so as we follow the history of this state, unfortunately, the issue of being arrested and convicted for a variety of offenses has followed you regardless of who you are, whether you're a farmer or a drug dealer, whether you are a single mom just trying to find a way to get those Pampers to your child in Erie or in Lackawanna or in Greenfield County or in suburban Philadelphia or Philadelphia County. The consequence of a stain on your record has followed countless thousands of Pennsylvanians for generations, not just for simply a period of time. And it caused me to think about what this moment actually means. It means no longer the division between Democrats and Republicans. And that's the way we tend to think about this. And we think about black and white. The truth is there's only one race. It's only one race to be fought. That's the human race. That dynamic that we are given the greatest gift in the world. Understand, second chances is what this nation was built upon. And regardless of what's going on in the national conversation, what's going on in Pennsylvania, is that we are doing the people's business. We passed the budget on time for the first time in how long? 2000. Which is the expectations of when we don't do it, it doesn't resound in a Republican or Democratic district. It doesn't resound in a urban, suburban, or rural district. It doesn't resound in a black or white community. It resounds in a human dynamic. This moment that young gentleman just spoke about, that emotion that he feels, that's penetrating all of us in this room, is felt about regardless of who you are. If you are in this state to be first and number one, it's exhilarating. And to be a member of the General Assembly, just a servant to sort of move this through, is extraordinary. It is what makes us the greatest nation in the world. We are second chance people. Every person who came here ran from persecution or conviction. Sometimes I think we forget that. I think we were born into perfection. The truth is we were not born on a hill, we were in the valley. Those who were considered themselves pilgrims, those who were slaves, those who were Native Americans, all of us are part of a struggle. And when there's a common moment that brings a bond, it brings out the greatest in us. It brings out what God intended for us. And that is to see the weakest link as the strongest part of who we are. This is not just a bill that is at first for Pennsylvania. This is a statement. It's a statement about what can be across this country. It's about how we can walk into each other's community and understand what we share. Kindness, consideration, passion, compassion for other people. Simply because it could be us. It could be our child. It could be our auntie. Or it could be our uncle. Or it could be our parent. This legislation certainly represents a possibility for opportunities and futures for those who thought that they were counted out. But for those of us who helped, it represents a purpose. It gives us, those who feel sometimes rudderless in government and frankly not much of value, gives us direction. And so when we return back to the work in the fall, I hope that this momentum that we have today continues, because it's the people's business that we're doing. Not a Republican, not a Democrat, not an African American, not a Jew, not a Pole, not an Italian, but an American That's the value upon which we stand. And this is the highest plane upon which we're perched. I'm proud to be here and delighted to sign this bill today with the governor. Thank you.
Okay, now for the toughest part of this whole deal, we decide who sits in these three chairs. And I'm going to sign this, and then I'll come back and answer any questions that you have. So why don't we get to the signing?
There you go.
Wow. Go to the house side. I'm behind the scenes.
I get on the house.
Okay.
It's already bandishing one, you know?
So I have these pens, but if we need more, I can get them. So I'll just.
Okay, yeah.
And this is the 28th. It's my anniversary.
Well, there you go. That's even better. You better remember it.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. I did shake your hand.
Yeah, I think it'd be good. You get this.
I'll take one.
Yeah, sorry. I'll take one. Okay, good. All right. Here we are. Proud day for Pennsylvania. All right, let me take some questions. Let me just ask some questions. Any questions? Yes.
Governor Deese, if I understand it correctly, these records are going to be sealed, not expunged. So if someone it goes 10 years, his record's sealed, fills out a housing application, and it says, have you ever been arrested, have you ever been convicted? What are they going to say? Yes, but you can't see my records?
That's a good question. I don't know what the answer is. They should say no.
But they would still have a conviction on their record, right?
So the way
It's
it's
your
written, okay, if you have an order of limited access, or if your record has been sealed, you can say no. The record is only viewable by law enforcement officers and the court and things of that nature. So if a person goes in and applies for a job and they have an order of limited access, when they go to check the box, they check the box no.
But if they were to get arrested again, that would be a second offense, right? They do still have a conviction on their record, right?
Correct, so
But they
they,
would tell people they don't.
yes.
So that doesn't sound like it's the truth, though.
It is the truth. Right, the law says, this law says that if it is sealed, you can answer that question no. If a person is rearrested, yes, the district attorney has an opportunity to look at their prior record. But if this person is applying for a job, their answer is no. And our hope is that, folks who have 10 years been free from crime won't commit it. And quite honestly, the statistics show that. The statistics show lower than that. The statistics show that after 3 years, the recidivism, the likelihood of a person recidivating drops dramatically. So, we're at 10, but the reality is folks that get to this level, they typically do not reoffend.
And if they were to get arrested, could they tell the police officer, no, I don't have a record? Can they tell anybody that?
On the point you're making, first, under the law. Under the law, you're not lying. So I want to make sure that's clear for the record, because you've made it 3 times. You're not lying. The people who may be involved in charging a judge or district attorney, those may be involved, and this is a misdemeanor, not a felony. This is not pedophiles doing around extreme things. So under the law, no, you're not going to tell the officer I've been arrested, and more than likely they're not going to ask you, because that would be prejudice in the process of prosecuting you. I think that, yes. If you're arrested and the person arresting you says, did you ever commit another crime? And then you're prosecuted, that's prejudice by the officer arresting you. That has nothing to do with the arrest. So I'm not sure why it was connected, but to your point, if the question is simply, am I lying by saying I have not been convicted of this misdemeanor, you're not lying. That's the law.
Any other questions? Yes.
Of course, I know that the convictions will be sealed after 10 years, but the arrest, wouldn't that be sealed after 3? Or what's the?
If you're arrested and not convicted, it's sealed immediately. Any other questions?
How many people do you expect will benefit? I've seen that statistic of nearly 1 in 3 Pennsylvanians have a criminal record, but I'm sure some of those have committed felonies.
Yeah, it's not, I don't have that, and the 1 in 3 statistic is based on national statistics, that 1 in 3 Americans, and we're assuming that that same statistic applies in Pennsylvania. I don't have that answer, do you?
So the majority, I apologize. I don't want to give you a number, but obviously the majority are misdemeanors, not felons.
Anything else? All right, thank you very much, and thank you, everybody.